Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hold On Till Dawn podcast. I'm your host, Erin, and today I am joined by a very special guest. Sadie's here.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How have you been? What have you been up to recently?
I've been doing well, doing a lot of just random stuff all over the place. I feel like this year's been a lot of traveling, which has been cool.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
But right now we're working on my second EP, so that's been what's been consuming most of my brain.
That's awesome. And you just had a show at Mercury Lounge, right?
Oh, we did, yeah. April 7th, we were at Mercury Lounge.
And is that in New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like Lower East Side.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How was the show?
It was really nice. Yeah, I played in New York a handful of times, and I was playing with two girls who I love and look up to who live in New York. So they brought a bunch of friends. A bunch of my friends from Philly ended up making it to New York, so it was a good turnout.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your music is very deep and soulful. Where do you get your musical inspiration from?
Well, first of all, thank you. I think growing up, I was introduced to so many genres at such a young age, so I never really found one and latched onto it. I was always just, overwhelmed with a million different genres, and I sort of took bits and pieces of each one and found my own little style. My parents are, the ones to thank for that. But growing up, I always looked up to these, soulful female rockers, like Stevie Nicks, Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse, those sort of people that were always in their own lane, doing their own thing, and just, empowering other women. So I think that's where I get that from. But honestly, just my main goal was always to forge my own path, so I think that sort of helped out, just kind of tuning out what was popular and trendy and just going with my gut and going with what I think sounds good, even if other people are, not saying it's trendy. I mean, it's definitely taken years and years of sort of refining it and finding my style, because I've been writing songs all my life, but I never really wrote them with any intention of people hearing them. As a kid, I wrote them, and I didn't really show anyone. And I remember vividly, my parents would leave. They would say, that sounds so sad. My parents would leave. My parents would say, we're going to the store, we'll be back in a half hour, whatever. And little 10-year-old me would be like, okay, now's my time to write. Because I needed the house empty for me to be able to write for whatever reason. I was always really secretive about it. And so I never really showed people my writing until I got a little bit older. And then once I started showing people and I got positive responses, that I started thinking, well, maybe I should release some of this stuff, and maybe if people aren't laughing at me and pointing their fingers and throwing tomatoes at me, maybe I should do this. And I think in the back of my mind, I always wanted to pursue it as a career, but I didn't have the confidence fully. But I always did music in some capacity. But yeah, it was really just year after year of kind of building and working my way up that I got to find an actual sound that felt true to me.
And how old were you when you finally started, sharing your music?
I was, I think, freshman year of college. I was 18 when I really started writing for the sake of releasing music, and when I started collaborating with other people and showing people what I was writing. But it wasn't until I was 20, I think, that I released my first song.
Oh, wow.
So it was a long time coming.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you just released your first EP in November, right? What was that process like of writing and recording that?
That was such a long process. I think when I was younger and I would watch my friends or my peers or just people I looked up to releasing music, it seems like an overnight process because you see them posting about it, and then a couple weeks later the song comes out and you're like, oh, that was so quick and easy, I'll do it, and it'll take me a week to write a song, and then I'll release it the next week, and easy. And I don't think I realized just how long it takes in general, and then how long it takes me, because I wrote Attendance Record, which is one of the songs that had better success compared to the others. I wrote that one in 2021, and it didn't come out until 2023, and it had all of these, changes, and we worked through it a lot, but yeah, I mean, between the writing process, the production process, and then the visuals and the actual distribution and that, some songs I wrote as early as 2018 and didn't release until 2023.
Wow.
So, yeah, some of these songs had really, really long lives before they even saw the light of day, which is kind of funny.
And why was that? Was it like you would listen to it and you felt like it needed a little bit more work before you put it out there, or?
Yeah, so there were some that I knew I wanted to release, but I think at the time, like I wrote Spark, which is the first song on the EP. I wrote that when I was 17 or 18. I didn't quite have the resources yet. I didn't even know how to release a song. If you asked me what a distributor was, I would have been, speechless. I didn't know what any of those things were. So, yeah, I think just growing up and realizing, there are tools that I can find or that, connections I can make. I think that is sort of what helped it along, and that's why I think things didn't happen when I was younger, because I just didn't know.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Learn as you grow. And so you were saying you're working on your second EP now, right?
Yeah.
So how is that process different from the first one?
I'm definitely learning from my mistakes. I would love to say it's been seamless, but nothing ever is.
Right.
Like I steamed this shirt this morning and it's already wrinkled, so how things are. Nothing's ever perfect, but
right.
It's definitely been way more, point A, point B, we're going straight. No detours or fewer detours than the last time. And I definitely, having 5 songs out that feel like me, I've really been able to pinpoint what my sound is, what that EP as a whole sounded like, and then where I'm trying to go. I think we have a cool direction we're going that's taking a lot of elements from the first EP and then incorporating a lot more rock, a lot more true soul elements, and even some just alternative indie type things. I think it's fun.
That's awesome. And do you have a release date or like a time in the future that you're thinking you'll be able to get it out there?
I have an approximate timeline. We actually haven't recorded some of the EPs still, so this is still, up in the air. But I'm thinking early summer. My birthday's in June, so I would love to get something out for my birthday. I don't know why, but that's just always been my way. I like to celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a show, I think it was 2022, I did a birthday show. It might have been last year, too. I always end up having a show around my birthday, and that's my favorite way to celebrate, is to, get all my friends together for the sake of music. So I think having some sort of release around my birthday, whether it's the first single of the EP, something like that, I think would be cool. But yeah, definitely looking at June, maybe the whole thing out in July, something like that. Then again, this could all change tomorrow, but yeah, we're going to the UK, to my producer's in the UK. So we're going to the UK to track the rest of the EP.
That's awesome.
So that'll be fun, and then I'll have a little bit more of a concrete idea of when things will be out once, everything's recorded at least.
Have you been to the UK before?
I have. I went there on vacation in 2019. So that's how I met my engineer.
Oh, cool.
My mix engineer is in Bath. And then he introduced me to my producer. So it's just been this really, a lot of chance meetings that led to some really good connections and people that I now, consider friends, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I've actually never worked with my producer in person, which is crazy. We've only worked on Zoom.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm so excited. Like, it's just like doing a podcast. It's so much more natural and it's smooth when it's in person.
Yes.
So, and things have been great over Zoom, but I'm so excited to actually be in the studio, working on things side by side instead of sort of on our own,
Totally different vibes, like when you're actually, you can like feed off each other's energy and stuff like that, Yeah,
even like there's a 5-hour time difference, so
I was
working at 8 a.m. and it was noon for him. That's kind of funny. Or it was 1 p.m. So 5 hours. I can do that.
Well, they don't have a time difference. Like, they don't do the time change like we do in America. So sometimes it's 6 hours and sometimes it's 5, depending on the year,
so
the time of year.
It's really funny. Yeah. So yeah, even that, it's just funny to think like early in the morning, like it'll just be cool to be completely on the same level, on the same page.
So next I want to talk about the benefit concert that we had in 2022 and what that experience was like for you on your end.
Yeah, so Hold On Till Dawn was my first event of that kind. I had never done a benefit concert. So it was something I remember when you emailed me. I remember I was in a coffee shop in New York, and I remember thinking, like, I want to do more of this. Like, I was like, I don't know why, because I had done a lot of gigs at that point. Because I had been gigging since I was a kid, but that one really struck me. And I just remember, like, I called my dad, I called my mom, and I was just like, this is a really cool opportunity. Like, I was just like, I felt so honored to be a part of something that actually meant something to me and where I could feel like I was making a difference. I think, because a lot of the time, I love music, I love writing, I love recording, but it feels selfish a lot of the time when it's always, oh, I'm getting a video of me and pictures done of me, and I'm writing songs about myself. So a lot of the time it's cool to actually, flip it and say, okay, I'm singing my songs, but for this great cause, for other people, So I was excited. I was excited to get the email, and I was excited to be in a room with people who all were united for a very important cause. I mean, I think everyone has, experiences with mental health related issues, and it was just something that struck home for me, and, was a cool thing to be able to connect with people over and raise money for.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful to have had you too. I think you were the last one I reached out to because someone else had backed out, so I was like, we need one more. And then I forget exactly how I found you. I think I was looking at like local Philadelphia artists, but I also saw like an article about like American Idol. And so I think it was only like about a month before the concert. So it was like perfect that you were able to join. You were like the last thing we needed for it to be like a complete. So
yeah, that made me so happy. Yeah. Plus, I thought it was funny the way you found me because I didn't really have that huge of a following then. So getting emails like that was, it wasn't a dime a dozen. It was like that's why I can vividly remember where I was and who I called, and because it was such a, unique thing for me to get an email like that. And then seeing it was at the Queen, like a venue that I had heard of, and it was so cool.
Yeah. This podcast is about music, but also about mental health. So I wanted to touch on if you specifically are having like a bad day or going through a rough time, what's something you do to help yourself get out of it?
Yeah. So for me, journaling has been the biggest thing. I've always, since I was a kid, kept a journal, and I wrote about what I did that day. I wrote about how I was feeling. A lot of the time I realized I was writing about things that I didn't know how to process, and that was my way of processing them. I was in the car, and I was reflecting on my old songs I used to write as a kid, and I used to write songs almost as messages of what I needed to hear at the time, which I didn't realize when I was 7 or 8 writing these songs, but it's so funny. It was probably 11 p.m. I'm driving home from a gig, and I was thinking about, I wrote one song called No One Ever, and I wrote one song called Don't Worry, and they were songs that at the time meant nothing. They were just, fun melodies that I was singing. But looking back, they weren't about how I was feeling, but they were about messages I wanted myself to hear.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just kind of funny to think about. Like the lyrics where no one ever died from trying, no one ever died from crying, no one ever died from being happy. And it was just like, you can cry your tears and you can show your emotion, and, no one died from it. Like, you can go ahead and show your emotion, and then you can go ahead and try. Like, you don't always have to be perfect at something. You can try at something and not be afraid to fail at something. And then the last line, which I always thought was stupid. Like, when you write something as a kid and then you get older and you're like, that's a stupid line. And I was like, why did I write no one ever died from being happy? I was like, that's a stupid line. But as, like, a kid and even into my adulthood, I never was fully happy. Like, I didn't want to be happy because I always wanted to be working for something else.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, is that what I meant? And this is my 23-year-old self interpreting my 7-year-old lyrics. But I was like, whoa, if that's what I meant, like, just let yourself be happy. Don't keep striving for things bigger and bigger and bigger. I was like, that's pretty
insightful.
For a 7 or 8-year-old. I was like, wow. But yeah, I think journaling has been my biggest thing from the time I was a kid to the time, now I'm 23 and I still journal every single day. It's become something I don't even do for fun. I do because I need to. Like, I just have feelings that I need to get out. Other than that, I think just running has been a big thing for me. More when I feel like physical, anxiousness, when I'm like a little bit, on edge. I wake up one morning and I'm on edge. If I just go for a run, it kind of gets out the jitters and that sort of thing. But honestly, something I've only recently gotten better at is just opening up to the people around me. My mom has been such a good resource, my whole family. And I think when I was younger, I was really scared to say the things I was feeling. And not even because I thought my family would judge me, because I never thought that they would judge me, but I wanted to be able to work through it myself. I was always like, I'm independent, I don't want to seem weak, and I don't want them to think that I need help. But I think the older I got, the more I realized there's nothing embarrassing about asking for help and saying, hey, I'm not doing well, and using the resources that I have. But yeah, that was a long-winded answer.
No, that was a really good answer. And I've been asking all my guests that, and everyone has had a different answer, which is amazing. Yeah.
I love that.
So that's really cool. And I wanted to ask, what kind of music do you like to listen to, and what is your favorite song at the moment?
Ooh, so my favorite band ever is Pink Floyd. I love classic rock. I love progressive rock, that sort of thing. So a lot of my favorite songs are Pink Floyd. I love Time by Pink Floyd currently. I mean, I've loved it for a while, but that's a song that I cover in my shows a lot of the time. So that song, it also just resonates with me. It's just about, year after year, you're getting older and you're afraid, of time moving, and you're afraid of, missing out and things like that. So I think it resonates with me more and more the older I get. But I listen to a lot of classic rock, a lot of Fleetwood Mac, Janis Joplin. I wish I could cite newer stuff that I listen to, but honestly, the new stuff that I listen to is usually stuff that my friends have made.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which I think is really fun. Like, I love when my friends have new releases. Like, my friend Lily just released a song a couple weeks ago called Lately. That's really, really cool. My friend Scarlett has been having a bunch of releases. These are the two girls I did the New York show with. So
cool.
I've been listening to their stuff nonstop.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my favorite thing, is when people that I know release music. Because, there's nothing I love more than when people, tell me that they're listening to my song the day it comes out, or that they're excited for the release. Because you work so hard for things.
Right.
Like, you're crossing your fingers that people actually listen to it the day it's released. So I always try to do that with my friends. Partly because, I want to be supportive, but also because a lot of the time I'm anxiously awaiting the releases.
Right.
I get excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a long time built up, and then once it's finally there, you're like, here it is.
It's cool. It's cool when it's people that you know.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time I'll have already known the songs, or they've sent me voice memos or demos of something, and then to see it, finally being posted about and finally being released is just so cool.
Mm-hmm. If there's a message you wanted to send to anyone that's listening, that's struggling, what advice would you have for them?
I think the biggest thing that's helped me is getting over my fear of reaching out for help. Like I said before, I think a lot of us want so badly to feel independent and to be seen as independent. And that's something that I really struggled with as a teenager and into my early 20s. I did not want help at all in my life, in music, in work, in anything. I just wanted to be. I wanted people to see me and say, wow, Sadie is so independent. And when I was my most independent was also when I was failing miserably at so many different things, because I was juggling so much that I couldn't possibly catch it all. And I think instead of people looking at me and seeing, wow, that's an independent, secure, stable girl, they were like, that's a girl who's juggling so many things at once and dropping them left and right. So I think, knowing when to reach out and knowing that it's not embarrassing, you're not failing, just because you're reaching out, I think that's one of the most important things. The second, just taking time for yourself. I'm the type, or I used to be the type, who would work myself into the ground. If there was a free shift up at work, I would take it, because I didn't want a second of free time, because I thought I had the most value when I was working 24/7. And I thought if I was relaxing, if I was going for a walk, if I was on my phone watching TikToks, I was like, I'm worthless. I shouldn't do that, I was so hard on myself. Anytime I wasn't working, I would get so anxious. And now that I've started actually having a good boundary with work and my actual life, I've been just happier. Like, I take time and see my friends. I spend time with my family. I'll go for an hour-long walk and just, soak in the sun. I did that yesterday. It was so good. I think just taking time for yourself is so important. And it's not selfish.
No, and that's really good advice.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Our website is holdontildawn.com, and our email is holdontildawn@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at holdontildawn and on Facebook at Hold On Till Dawn Benefit Concert. See you next time.